You're the only one who can tell me if today is the day.
Yeah, today is the day.
Tonight, as more people choose a medically assisted death, we get an intimate look at a Saskatoon woman's end-of-life journey. Also,
like here we've fled the fires up north here, and we saved a couple down here.
A group of men from Northern Saskatchewan are hailed heroes after jumping into action during a house fire. Plus, after a strong preseason start, the Riders look ahead to Week 1 of the CFL season.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, June 5th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Sam is away tonight. 4 men from English River Dene Nation are being called heroes. They were forced to evacuate their northern community nearly 3 weeks ago and have been staying at a hotel in North Battleford ever since. They're working security, watching over other evacuees, but in the middle of the night last week, they spotted smoke at a nearby home and jumped into action. Jesse Anton reports.
Like, when's the chance I'm going to do that again in my life? Probably never. So I'm just, like I say, I'm just glad I was there.
When Dwayne Barassa and his fellow security guards saw smoke coming from a nearby neighborhood early last Tuesday morning, they knew they had to investigate.
Yeah, I just said, let's go. And we did, and it's a good thing that we did.
They arrived to find smoke billowing out of a bungalow, an elderly man outside and his wife inside, looking for her walker.
When we arrived on scene, the husband, like, they must have just woken up. You know, he was wandering back and forth like he didn't know what to do first. So we approached up out there, me and Roger, and I just said, well, hey, mister, get in your van, move your van across the road. We'll take care of your wife.
And they did, walking her arm in arm across the street to safety. Minutes later, emergency crews pulled up, including North Battleford Deputy Fire Chief Paul Perry.
A lot of people wouldn't have done that, so that's why I thought they deserve some praise. Those gentlemen, without a doubt, helped to save that couple's life.
Happy tears, eh?
Barassa was moved to tears getting that recognition and wondering what would have happened had they not been there.
Just thinking how it could have turned out if we weren't there. Because like I say, that old lady would have hit the ground. Like, that smoke would have overtaken her. She may not have passed away from it, but she would have been, in the hospital for a while. And like I say, I'm just glad we were there.
Barassa says he and his colleagues knew they were escaping fire, but they didn't expect to run towards it. And they're glad they did. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
Forest fires damage more than trees, homes, and buildings. Smoke and particles pollute the air. In one part of Quebec today, authorities urged residents to wear respirators when outside. Lauren Pelly looks at the health threat to our lungs.
The sky in Montreal looked gloomy, all thanks to smoke from more than 150 forest fires still raging elsewhere in Quebec, including Val d'Or, 500 kilometers northwest, where evacuations began over the weekend, and fumes are inescapable.
It's all over the place. You go outside, you smell it. It's even with just opening a window for a few seconds.
Across the country, multiple regions are now facing air quality statements, some far beyond the wildfire zones. In Toronto, a haze hung over the downtown core.
We know that wildfire smoke causes widespread inflammation.
This physician says it's all made up of pollutants, which can become more harmful to human health the more you're exposed.
So people who work outside, people who are experiencing homelessness and spending a lot of time outdoors, the risks to those folks will be higher.
Environment Canada says people with heart or lung disease, asthma, pregnant individuals, and both children and seniors are also at high risk, even from small amounts of smoke.
It can go all the way down into our lungs and not only cause topical irritation through all of our respiratory linings, but actually cross over into our bloodstream.
A research team studied a bad wildfire season in Canada's north and found a rise in hospital visits linked to asthma, pneumonia, and COPD.
You may want to shelter in place because you don't want to get out there and be breathing in more terrible air.
And doctors say if you have to go outside in the smog, consider wearing something you might still have at home, a well-fitting N95 mask. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
A Saskatoon man is sharing the story of a scary encounter with two men who broke into his home last week. Max McQuinn says he looked for a weapon to defend himself. Dan Zakreski tells us what happened next.
Max McQuinn says it was just after midnight when he stepped out to this McDonald's to pick up some food. Now, he lives just a couple blocks away over on Avenue D North. He got back to his house and said he heard voices. He went inside and then came face to face with two men in his kitchen.
I was stuck between, a closed door behind me, and by the time I did notice the guys, they were so close, where it's like, I don't want to turn my back on that. So my thought process, I guess, was just even the odds as much as I could.
That's when he remembered the knife he'd sharpened earlier.
So yeah, I grabbed the chef's knife off of the counter and just kind of held it out to wave it around and, move towards them. I didn't know what they could, I didn't know if they had knives or anything. So I was just kind of shuffling towards the door.
McQuinn got them out and says he didn't realize that he'd hurt one of the men until he saw his T-shirt turning red as he ran away. He later learned the man went to emergency. That's where police arrested him and charged him with break and enter. Police say it's not likely they'll charge McQuinn, even though he injured someone with a knife. Lawyers say what it comes down to is whether Max McQuinn acted reasonably under the circumstances. Now, outnumbered, cornered in his own home, police say this was self-defense. McQuinn says he's since made some changes to his life. He's got some cameras in his house now, and he says he's just more aware of his surroundings. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, the preseason is over and final cuts have been made. Now the Saskatchewan Roughriders are saddling up for Week 1. The Green and White open the season on the road this coming Sunday against the Edmonton Elks. Edmonton hasn't won a game on their home turf since October 2019, and the Riders are rolling after a perfect preseason. But the team isn't getting ahead of themselves just yet.
We're through the preseason, so it's hard to really give it a fair assessment. We haven't had all of our guys out there at the same time. We haven't played against all the starters for the other teams yet. So I think it's still yet to be determined. I think, probably it's not fair to evaluate all that stuff till later in the season to see how it all comes together.
The Riders made their final cuts yesterday. Wednesday will mark the first practice with this season's official 54-man roster. The squad will be looking to improve on its 6-12 record from last season.
I'm even more ready to go home, because I know that I have all the support of my beautiful family.
87-year-old Jeanette Loden chose to have a medically assisted death. The Saskatoon woman agreed to share on camera the final weeks of her life and her death, and she did so for you, our viewers, to help you understand what a medically assisted death is. We'll have her story coming up after the break. Welcome back. The number of people choosing a medically assisted death is on the rise here in Saskatchewan. Last year, about 240 people used the program. For Jeanette Loden, MAID offered dignity and choice. The 87-year-old Saskatoon woman said if people are going to make good decisions, they need to see exactly what it's like. So she invited our Jason Warwick to share her story and what her family is calling a good death.
Ooh, it's so shimmery.
Which kind of pen do you need?
It's the night before Jeanette Loden's medically assisted death. She asked her family to decorate the lid of her coffin.
Okay, once you do your hand.
The 87-year-old Saskatoon artist has allowed CBC News nearly unrestricted access to the final moments of her life and her death.
Okay, thank you. Hello, hi.
Hi, how are you?
We meet Jeanette and her daughter Phyllis several weeks before Jeanette is scheduled to die.
Shall I tell you about my first boyfriend?
Sure.
I was 13.
She's eager to reminisce about her life and explain her reasons to end it.
I thought, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this. It was too painful. Everything was hurting. I was hurting all over. I couldn't do anything. And that's when Phyllis supported me in making that decision, that I need to go home.
Once she decided that she wanted to go the maid route, that she could see an end in sight, it completely changed her outlook. I mean, changing your outlook on life when when you've got 6 weeks to go might sound like an odd thing to do, but she was so happy.
I've had enough. I've had a long life. I'm 87 years old. I've had a wonderful family who support me, and I love dearly forever, and I'll be looking down on them and smiling and telling them I love them,
She knows she's leaving a legacy in her family.
I love it. I love this.
And in her art.
The next wonderful thing in my life is the time I've had to do my art. That's been my second love.
I've mixed about 4 times what I need here. If you come and just sit like right here.
So as she prepares to die, she enlists the help of her grandson.
And just set your hand in there.
To make plaster casts of her hands for her family.
I think it's going to be not too bad.
Looks like you're reaching from beyond the grave here.
Well, I will be.
Yeah.
And now I have a chance to answer the questions that my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids have. Yeah, it turned out good.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, good to see you again.
How are you?
Hi, Dr. Weiler here again. And I always like to give people that sort of description that if they've ever had surgery, they know what the procedure is like because it's going to sleep in the same way.
Right.
Of course, with this, you don't wake up.
Yeah.
And the other is that really it's like drifting off into a very just restful sleep. So whoever person drifts off to sleep is kind of what to expect for people in the room.
So does my mouth open or?
Whatever kind of is normal for you when you drift off to sleep.
I just don't want to look gross.
No. And this is always your choice.
Yeah.
No one can make this choice but you.
Right. Yeah, I know that. A person can have control and dignity when they die without, say, being found dead on the floor in my apartment.
You having a good time?
I am.
Mimosas tomorrow morning.
My mother and father, when they got married, and I treasure that picture of them. And I'll probably be seeing them and saying hello, and it'll be so nice. It'll be so nice to see all my ancestors again.
Jeanette's family has come to accept her decision and is grateful for the opportunity to be part of it.
I'm going to read the poem. Relax back, beloved one, into the timeless presence from which shines stardust and storms and love and light. Rest, beloved one, in the mystery that is your source.
Thank you so much, honey. You're welcome, Grandma.
Yeah.
I love you, my Sarah, my sweet Sarah. Everybody thinks I'm brave, but I'm actually relieved that I don't have to suffer.
The day has finally come.
Okay, so this is what's going to happen. The doctor's going to come in about half an hour. He's going to talk to Grandma alone for a little while, he's got to get final consent, and by law he has to make sure that nobody is making her do this. So he's going to come in, he's going to talk to her, and then he's going to put an IV in, and then it'll be time for us to all say goodbye to her.
You're the only one who can tell me if today is the day.
Yeah, today is the day.
Today is the day for sure.
Yeah, for positive.
The first step, Dr. Weiler inserts the empty IV line.
Put this down.
As he prepares the fatal medication in the kitchen, it's time for Jeanette to say her final goodbyes.
I love you so much, and I'll miss your presence, your physical presence, but I'll be I'll be watching over you and sending all my love and smiling down on you proudly. You are a wonderful person, and I've loved you from the first day of your birth until now. And then I'll love you forever from the other place, from the other realm.
It was such a wonderful ending. You know, in my mind, it was a beautiful death. Ready, guys? Yep. Okay. I see death so much differently now than I saw it before, where before it seemed like a threat. It wasn't scary. She was not frightened at all, and she wanted to be able to share that and to, ease people's mind. Great-grandma's favorite drink was ginger ale. Okay, so go give her some ginger ale. And it was a good death. There was no pain, there was no wondering, there was no things left unsaid. It was completely the appropriate and perfect time. And she had it exactly how she wanted it.
Mom has gone home.
Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Correctional Services Canada says it's reviewing its recent decision to move Paul Bernardo to a medium security prison. Bernardo has been serving a life sentence at a maximum security facility for almost 30 years. He was found guilty of kidnapping, torturing, and murdering 2 teenage girls. The lawyer of the victims' families say they were given no warning or explanations for the transfer. Catherine Cullen has the details.
I was profoundly concerned and again shocked by this decision.
The public safety minister condemns the decision to move Paul Bernardo, but he can't change it.
It is important to underline that under the law, this is an independent decision.
On Friday, news broke that the notorious serial rapist and killer had already been transferred from this Ontario maximum security prison to a medium security one in Quebec, prompting outrage.
I fully and totally understand how shocked and appalled so many Canadians are.
Mr. Bernardo is a monster and he belongs in maximum security.
And from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, Paul Bernardo should rot in a maximum security prison for the rest of his miserable existence, full stop. The Correctional Service of Canada said in a statement the decision will now be reviewed to ensure it was appropriate, evidence-based, and more importantly, adequately considered victims.
It just brings sadness and despair and disbelief to them.
The lawyer for the families of victims Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French say the Correctional Service won't even explain why Bernardo was moved or whether he's now in the general prison population instead of solitary confinement.
They should not be hiding behind the privacy rights of the offender, of this particular kind of offender, the worst of the worst, the most evil of evil.
I think going forward, it will be up to the Correctional Services of Canada to explain to Canadians exactly how these decisions are taken.
Mendocino says years ago Canadians were assured Bernardo would live out his days in a maximum security prison. It's not clear whether this review will send him back to one. The minister says he expects an update soon. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Well, it has been a stormy afternoon through the province, and this is a storm that just hit the Meadow Lake area a few minutes ago. Our producer, Bonnie Allen, sending this to us. She says it's about nickel-sized hail in the area. You can see a close-up of it there. storm was going through just a few minutes ago. And in fact, there are still a few storms happening at the moment. Let's take a look at where those are right now on our satellite and radar. And again, that red area there is where the severe thunderstorm warning is. That's actually not for the Meadow Lake area. It's just for the north of the Battlefords. We are seeing a storm moving through there right now. And that's also in an area that's under a tornado watch. And to the east of there, you can see severe thunderstorm watches are still in place for the Prince Albert and La Ronge areas. We'll back out and you can see those storms moving northward, a few of them to the southeast of Regina as well. Lots of colors on that map, so let's break it down. Severe thunderstorm watch for northern portions of the portions of the northern grain belt rather through the Churchill region. A tornado watch is in place from Meadow Lake through the Battlefords Lloydminster area down to Kindersley Rosetown, and we also do have a heat warning that is in place for Regina and eastern sections of south and central Saskatchewan. And here's why we're seeing all of those warnings. That very hot, humid air parking itself over the province. We're looking at temperatures still into the 30s at this hour right now, around 33 degrees still in Moose Jaw, but with the humidex feeling closer to 37 in places like Saskatoon and the Battlefords. That area not seeing heat warnings because we're actually not seeing 2 or more consecutive days of that type of heat. This will be breaking for that part of the province tomorrow once the storms have passed through. But for Regina and eastern sections of the province, that heat's still going to be with us, and our jet stream pattern reflecting this as well. That's still going to be well to our north, that hot air beginning to continue building in. But things will be getting drier as we head through the week as high pressure starts to move in, but not before we see showers and storms once again through the night tonight and through tomorrow, clearing though for western sections of the province, especially as we get into Wednesday. Our thunderstorm threat tomorrow shifting eastward through the province to Regina, Weyburn, Estevan, all up the eastern side of the province there. Strong winds, large hail, torrential rain. We'll have to check tomorrow to see what our tornado risk is looking like, to see if it's as elevated as it was today as that threat moves eastward. For Regina, again, next couple of days here near 30 degrees and still with a chance of storms before that high pressure moves in. We see the humidity thankfully starting to back off a bit, but it will be a dry heat as we head into the weekend and also into the beginning of next week with temperatures still near 30 degrees. Saskatoon, normal for this time of year is 22. And we will be above that as we head through the rest of the week. We'll get a bit of a break tomorrow, as I mentioned, as that storm, the storm system kind of passes us by and we get some drier air, but still quite warm for overnight lows as we head over these next few days. Heading into the weekend, looks like we're going to be seeing some sunnier conditions and then back to the 30-degree mark as we head into the beginning of next week, and possibly, just maybe, some showers after that. And that is our cast for tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. I'll be back with more local news and weather at 11, but up next, it's Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Panthers and Golden Knights. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.